Hi there, welcome to my channel. Hope you guys are having a great day. And so as you guys can see, we're in the red, 0.31% today. A little bit of a drop, but that's okay. No big deal. And so I recently removed some money from my portfolio here, which is basically removing margin, a little bit over $4,000 to pay some bills. And so how do you get to this point? How do you get to 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, and so on? Because I started from zero, right? And I have I don't make six figures in my job. I'm a welder, so I have an average, pay. And so how do you go from zero to having 1,000, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, and so on? And so I think it comes down to changing habits. Because just before I started investing, I remember uh, paying all of my bills, just like um, uh, all the bills I have, just like anybody else. After paying all of my bills, and I remember having like about $30 left. This was back in 2007, I believe, 2007, 2008, something like that. After paying all my bills, I had like $30 left, and I didn't have a family yet. I was married, but didn't have children yet. But thinking back to then, it's like, you know, I was left with $30 after paying for everything. I was able to pay for everything, but I only had $30 left, and so for the rest of the month, basically. And so when it comes down to it, whose fault was it that I only had $30 left? Well, it was my own fault, right? Nobody else's fault. I can't blame anybody else for the fact that I only had $30 in my wallet after paying for all of my bills. And so I realized that yeah, I didn't like that situation, right? um, yeah, you pay for everything and then you're only left with $30. Yeah, didn't like that situation. And so that's when I determined to really figure out the money game. How do you do this, right? How do you save money? And so I started to look for advice online, right? Anything I could read, anything I could find out about, maybe a teacher who could help me figure this thing out. And so what the first person I started to listen to was Dave Ramsey. I'm pretty sure you've heard of him. He's quite famous, right? And he suggests that you initially save $1,000 and then save 3 to 6 months worth of income, right, for an emergency. And so initially, yeah, I started doing what he was talking about, and then he started talking about the stock market. And so I didn't know what the stock market was. I had no clue. I had no idea how it worked. I didn't know anything about it. And so I'm going from zero to having 1,000 in the bank, right? Um, um, it's basic math. I mean, it's not that difficult to figure out. To get to 1,000. I mean, you either save, $100 a month for 10 months, and that's 1,000. If you want to get to 10,000, of course, you have to save more. You have to save $1,000 for the next 10 months to get to 10,000. And so, of course, getting to higher and higher numbers, especially to like about 100,000, yeah, that took some time. That took quite a bit of time to get to 100,000. But soon after I got to 100,000, getting to 200 and a little bit more was a little bit faster, because by then you start to, here's the thing, you start to learn about about the stock market, about getting paid interest, about how to save money and not spend money on things that you simply don't need, right? There are things that we simply don't need, right? There are things that you can live without. Um, um, you can't live without a roof over your head, right? Of course, you must have a roof over your head, right? Can't live without electricity, food, gas in your car, a car, right? But I don't need to drink a Starbucks every day, right? I don't need to do that. It's not a necessity. I don't need it. I don't need to buy clothes every week. I don't need the latest and greatest phone. I don't have to have the nicest 2025 vehicle, right? Don't need those things. I have a decent car, nice place to live, nice clothes, nice enough, and got plenty of food right in the fridge. So the basic necessities. And so in the beginning, there's a lot of sacrifice to be able to invest and get to higher and higher numbers, right? You don't go on vacations, for example. You don't buy a bunch of stuff that you really don't need. You only buy what you really need. And of course, if you need something, buy it, of course. But whatever you're able to save, right? Whatever amount that is, it may be a lot, it may be a little, but I started by saving a little bit, right? And it's the power of compounding, right? You get into the habit of saving and investing, right? You don't just take that money and put it like under your pillow or something, right? Or put it in a box or dig a hole and put it in there. No, you're looking for a place to put that money where it's going to generate more money. That's how you save it. So initially, when I started doing this and saving money, my initial goal was to get to $1,000, right? And so the first thing I did was I looked for a high interest savings account. And back then, when I did eventually find one online, they were paying only like 2%, right? So the amount they were paying to keep my money in this savings account was only 2%. So it was very low by comparison to now. Now they're up in like the 4%. But I'm pretty sure they're going to be coming down. But it was about 2% back then when I started saving money. And of course, I started to see the cash pile up, right? 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. And then eventually I hit 10,000, which was a great milestone for me. And so then you kind of try to figure out like, well, where can I put this lump sum of money where it'll produce even more money, right? Because you always want to try to find a place to put that money where it's going to make more money, where it's going to give you a greater return. And previously, when I didn't know about the stock market or about interest or about any of these things, I was never looking for a place to like where to put money, right? It never even crossed my mind. All I was thinking about is where do I spend it, right? What do I buy next? Instead of saving it and trying to find somewhere to invest it or to put it somewhere where it's going to make interest, where it's going to continue to make me money, right? And so that's how you start. It starts slow. If you're young and you don't have much money, it's going to be, a slow process, right? Of course, it starts off with a job, right? You must have some way to make an income. And then you must be able to have the discipline to save some amount of that income, right? By not just spending it on all kinds of stuff that you don't necessarily need. You want to be able to save some amount of that money that you're working hard for. And so you're working hard for money, so am I, and you start saving that money so that it becomes more money. And so once you get that ball rolling, right, the ball gets bigger, just like the snowball that you throw down you've probably seen it in cartoons, right? Some cartoon character makes a snowball, throws it down the hill, and it starts to pick up more snow on the way down. and the snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the bigger it gets, the more snow it can collect. So it just, the more money you have, the larger the amount gets, because more money makes more money. But of course, if you never get started, right? If you never get started at all, well then it's not going to happen, right? I don't know if you ever played like the dart board, right? You got the dart in your hand and you want to hit the bullseye. If you have a dart in your hand and there's no bullseye, there's no target, I mean, where are you going to throw it? I mean, just, it's got no direction. There's no goal, there's no target, right? You must have a target. What's your target? Oh, it's $1,000, right? What's the dart? Oh, it's $100 a month, right? That's the dart. I want to get to $1,000 in 10 months, or I want to get to 10,000, right? If you're able to do that, you have to have a goal, and you got to have that target in mind, that target number. Now, this does require a little bit of faith, of course. All this money journey here that I've had required some amount of faith, right? And well, I believe in God. I believe what the Bible says. And there's a verse in the Bible that says that it is impossible to please God without faith, right? Because first of all, you must believe that God exists. You must have faith, right? And so for me, faith is an important part of my life. And God has allowed me to get to this point in my life. And so what I mean by this faith idea is that a lot of people may have the idea in their mind that I'll never have $1,000 in the bank, right? Or I'll never have 10,000. I'll never have 20. I'll never have 50,000. I'll never have 100,000. Okay. If that's what's in your mind, right? Like, nope, that's, I'll never reach those numbers, right? It's not me. It's not gonna happen for me. If you've already got that in your head that I'll never have 1,000 or 10,000, or if that's what you're thinking, then you're right, right? You won't have 1,000. You won't have 10,000. You won't have 50,000. You won't have 100,000. You won't make it there. But if you have the faith, if you believe, yeah, I believe that I can have $1,000. I believe I can have 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. If you already kind of put that in your mind, right? Yes, I can do it. I can get there. Then guess what? I mean, that's a step in the right direction, because then you set up the plan for the goal, right? You got the target. Your target could be 1,000. Your target could be 10,000. Your target could be 100,000, right? You got the dart. You got the mechanism to be able to reach that number. And so the stock market is that tool to help you reach that number even faster, right? Because if your goal is to reach $10,000, right? Obviously, if you just put $10,000 in a box, or you're trying to save up to $10,000 and you just put that money in a box, it's going to take you a lot longer to reach 10,000. If you take the money that you're using to get up to 10,000 and you put it into something that's paying you money, well then you're going to reach your goal a lot faster, right? If you put it in the stock market, right? You happen to buy some ETF that's going to pay you money, then you're going to reach that goal a lot faster, because it's accumulation, it's some compounding, it's paying you something, and it may appreciate in value. For example, as you guys know, I've been anticipating purchasing WPay. So let's go to WPay. WPay, come on. Let's do this. There it is. So I've been waiting, as you guys know, for this to drop down to, you know, maybe it'll even go down to 25% margin maintenance. It's currently still at 100. I assume that by next month it'll be, maybe 30 or 25%. And so, in anticipation of that, I would like to buy at least $10,000 worth of WPay. And so, what I've been doing is I've been selling just a little bit of all these different ETFs to get up to 10,000. And I already have the 10,000 set aside to be able to buy WPay. And so, for example, right, you're putting in $100 into WPay. That will allow you to buy about 2 shares per month, right? And WPay could increase in value. And it's going to pay a dividend, right? Therefore, your goal of reaching $10,000, right, is accelerated. You're kind of hitting the accelerator, right? You're not just putting that money, in the bank, for example. Even though if you put it into the right savings account, you could probably make about 4% off of that money. And that would be faster than just, saving it in a box or something. Now, putting it into something like this, WPay, could even accelerate that faster because now you're buying 2 shares of WPay, and WPay is paying about 50 cents a week. So you're kind of accelerating your possibility of getting to higher and higher and higher numbers. And so this is the type of information that I wish I would have known back when I started working my first job, right? If you're very young and you're listening to this, this is the type of information that if you get started, right, you got your job, you're getting your check, you're taking a little bit of that money and buying something like WPay or SPY or some ETF, and you're accelerating the growth of your money. And eventually it becomes more money that you don't have to work for, right? Like all this that's here for me, I already worked for all this, and some of it I didn't even have to work for because it's increased all by itself. It's become more all by itself. It's multiplied all by itself because it's increased in value. And as you guys know, the focus of my portfolio is dividend income. So it's paying me something. Because what do you do with the cash? What do you do with money, right? Do you just buy something that, just becomes worthless? I bought a car, right? Back in 2009. It cost me over 20 some odd $1,000. It was brand new. That car is probably only worth $3,000 now, right? If I would have taken that same money and put it into the stock market or, some other thing that increases in value, I probably could have bought a bunch of cars now, right? That's the idea. The idea is, if you're very young, I wish somebody would have told me this stuff. It would have been great if somebody would have told me back when I was, 19, 18 years old and started working and I started investing. It would have been good, I'd probably further ahead financially. But the past is gone, right? That time is gone. And so if that's you, we're like, okay, I'm not young anymore. That time is gone for me. It's past for me. You can still start, right? You can still start today. You can change, take that initial step, to get started. Because if you don't get started, then, nothing changes. If you don't take the step, if you don't change anything, then nothing changes, right? If you don't get out of your comfort zone to try to learn about this stuff, then nothing happens. You just remain the same. And you remain in the same situation or in the same position. right? Just like when I told you I only had $30 in my pocket, and I didn't want things to remain that way. I wanted them to change. And so, with faith in God, by praying, God led me to the stock market, and the change has come about, right? And so, hopefully, this information is beneficial for you. I want to try to share information that is beneficial. Thanks for watching. You guys have a great one. We'll catch you in the next video. God bless. Bye.